Hey everyone, this is Lean and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today I'm featuring these Hex Shadow Word Meraki Paradise that are currently released. It's newly released on the 19th of this month and I love it. And I am combining it with the Stitch Across Slimline die and the Frame Worthy Slimline die. These dies were already out there for you guys, were previously released in several releases. Now, what you can see here is a box that I bought on Amazon. And, well, I love this die and I love the amount of possibilities that you have. You can do some cross-stitching, you can create your own pattern with the threads that you have at home. You can even ink blend on it, you can use it to emboss a bit on your paper. Anything you fancy, you can do with this die. And well, as soon as I knew that this die was coming to me, I went to Amazon and I looked for a box with different threads because I really wanted a variety of different greens, different rainbow colors, if you want to say so. So I showed you my arm here. I am going to do 5 rows of each color, and I discovered that the my underarm, well, I needed 2.5 times, and then I will have enough thread for this one color. Now, from time to time, I took a bit more or a bit less, and then sometimes I needed to take another piece of the same color. No worries, it all works fine. But yeah. So here I'm going to show you how I do this cross stitching, and cross stitching, as the word says, is really making a cross with your thread that you have. Now there are several ways of doing this and I'm just showing you what works for me because this is quite a quick way. So I go in one row and I return, and this is the way I make my crosses, but you can always do one cross at a time, but I just figured out that was just too slow for me. So I'm starting on the right bottom for my crosses here, and I'm going just to the left hole on the row above it. Now you can go any way you want to go, but just I'm right-handed and I found it easier to have, well, to start on the right bottom of my panel. So here you can see I'm starting over because I pulled the thread completely through it. So what I do is, again, right hole on the first line, left hole just above it on the second line, and that's how I go diagonal towards the left. I do this for the complete row, and on the back I hold the end of this thread. I secure it with my finger until I have a few diagonals done. You will see it, I will show it. It wasn't easy to show on camera, I must admit. I really like doing this in front of the TV later in the evening, and I'm not making any cards anymore. I just really want to be creative and I have time for that. Then I just can really relax doing this. But I wanted to show you. So I just keep doing this until I'm at the end of the row, and then I return. And now you can see here I kept that end of the thread with my fingers secured, and now with all the holes that I did, it's secured behind everything. Now if you didn't hold it and you want to secure it, you can later on also just go through the back of all those stitching that you did at the end. But I do that every time I finish a color, then I do exactly the same. So here I skipped a bit and I'm showing you just how easy it is to return if you did a whole row of these diagonals to one side. And then you just do exactly the same but in the opposite direction. You see? So now I'm going in the other direction. And then you will actually see the stitching, the cross stitching. You see? And that's just the whole mechanism that I did to complete this panel. Now it took me a while, I think you really should do this if you have some time, or if you're really practiced at this, but I never did cross stitching before I had this panel or this die to try it out with, so just so you know. So working my way to the other side again. And the thing with this panel is also that I wanted to have my crosses every time the same. So you know, my cross is first going to the left, upper left, and then it's going to the upper right. And I wanted to keep it that way. So when I started on my second row, you will see here I had to figure out how to do that, because you finish at the final hole where you previously started. Well, maybe this is a bit not clear. Sorry for that. But how can you explain this? I'm trying. So I'm finishing this row, and I really love it when a row is finished and you can see all those crosses. It's amazing, I think. But here, as you can see, I'm going to go inside that hole where I normally would start with my row. So that's an issue, because you can't start there. So I figured out just move it one row from the back, and then just do that completely. Return, and then in the end we finish that as well. So that's why I'm showing these steps to you again, because maybe it's a bit weird, but if you don't mind that the crosses are in another direction, then you shouldn't do this. But I just, well, my head says that I need those crosses same direction every time again, so this was the solution for me. And we're doing exactly the same. You see, this way, and I don't know if it's completely correct, but I get there, and that's the important part. This way works for me, so maybe it works for you as well. So here I'm also at that point where I needed to shift a bit to start. So what do we do in the end? So I don't want to go through a thread, so I'm just starting there. And now I'm going underneath, you see? Like this. And now we are going to secure this ending as well. So I'm just going with my needle through all the backs of those stitches that we did. And then we can trim off the excess, like this. And the first color is finished. So then I took the next one, and I did exactly the same. Now the lovely thing about this box is that I have so many different colors, and at the same time I have a lot of the same color but other shades, and I love that. And this is a box, it contains 100 colors that I bought. It wasn't really expensive, and you can make the most amazing gradients or the most amazing rainbow combinations that you can think of, and I just love that about this box. So this card is really bright. I think it's also a bit springy from the season, because it's all those bright colors that nature is showing currently, or at least in Belgium. We have now, well, nice temperatures. It's not too hot, not too cold. We have had a lot of sun lately, so that's all fun. But you can go any way you want with this background. If you do cross stitching, you can even do one complete panel with one color. You can do motifs in the background. I suggest, if you want to know which variations you can do with this background, definitely check out the Crafty Meraki shop. There are different examples from the design team that use this die in so many different ways, and I love each and every way they used it. So check it out if you're not sure how you could use this die in another way, but there are so many ways, you will be surprised. So here we are again at the end, and I'm speeding it up a bit more. I didn't want you to be rushed in the beginning when I showed you how, but this is always the same idea. And as you can see, it will get bigger and bigger and more colors. So I skipped the whole part where I'm showing each time every color. I just wanted to recap some of the things, like here we go in one row completely, but if you want to, you can do one cross stitch each time and finish them and then continue with the next. For me it's row per row, and just in the other direction you do the opposite direction of the stitch. So that I wanted to show you, and then also of course ending that row there where you started a bit more towards the left, like here. Then we just continue, and with the final stitch that we do, we go underneath that hoop that we made. And if I accidentally went through the thread, because there are different threads all together to get this thickness, I just make sure that I use my needle to go in reverse a bit to not go through the same thread at the back. This is something that I prefer, of course. And if you don't like your panel to be completely filled with the colors, because I kept the thread as I bought it, you can also take two of those threads, or partially, well, how can you explain this? So if I look at these threads that I have in the box, then you can actually see that one thread consists of several thinner threads. You know, if you want that cross stitch to show up more, instead of having your complete panel covered with the colored threads, you can always use 2 or 3 threads that are assembled together to have this thickness. And again, I hope that this is clear, because I'm using the thickness that I have. I have no idea which thickness this is, but the brand that is listed on the package is Peirich, if I pronounce it right. That's what I'm using here, and I don't know if that's quality or not, but it works for these guards, and I love it that I have that rainbow assortment of colors. So as you can see here, to have the same direction, I just shift the beginning of this row a bit to the left, and I fix it in the end by going underneath the previous stitch that I did. And then finally here we have again how I end my stitching. So here going underneath the previous stitch, and then we are going with the needle through all the backs of at least 4 to 5 is what I do. We pull it through, and then we can cut off the excess, and everything is secured. Now, that being the biggest part of this card, we are still featuring that new Hugs shadow word, Meraki Paradise. But I just wanted to have a stunning background and then really let that word shine. So I have this done. Now I'm using the biggest frame-worthy Slimline die, and as you can see, it's slightly smaller than complete panel that I have cross-stitched on now. So I'm going to trim it really closely. And therefore I'm first securing these endings, or the edges of all the colors, using some Scor tape. I'm making sure to go as close to the edge as possible. And then I'm going to trim down this panel right up against the edge where the threads are, because I don't want it to show from behind my frame. And there are some places where I actually cut through those holes, but it's okay. First of all, we have that Scor tape on the back, which is really good. And then we did some cross stitching, so actually everything is stuck on there, so it won't get loose, except if you snip through your threads, then, well, that I don't suggest. but just take your time, trim it closely, and then you can use this frame. Well, there are also other frames that can really work and that might be slightly bigger, so then just choose that if you're uncomfortable going this close to your stitching, but it works, no worries. So also using the Scor tape here, and then I'm also securing the upper, the side upwards and the endings of all the stitching. Making sure I align it well, and that's the background. Now for the hugs, I am going to first add this on my slimline. And I also thought, just if you like cross stitching and you like also card making, personally I love this rainbow that I did. And if I didn't have this amazing hugs word, I would just leave it like this. Why not? It's just something that you can frame, hang on your wall if you want to. No, not necessarily, but I'm really proud on this. So I have this shadow from the hugs. I cut it out of Vellum, and now I'm cutting this hugs out of this gold dust glitter card. Now, like some previous released words, we also have thanks, and there are many words released in this new release like this, and I just love them. So you have that huge shadow, and now actually when you cut out the hugs you have one shadow and then the word itself as well. So you have 3 dies in one. Isn't that amazing? I love that. So in this case I am using the 2 shadows that you have, but you can use anything you want. I just thought for this card I could use the vellum to let those stitching still be seen that are behind it. I didn't want to cover it completely. And then the second shadow, it fits so gorgeously on this one. I'm adding it, and then I'm using that hugs to get those tiny pieces in the right position. Like this. So I'm making sure to also get that hugs out again to make sure that nothing is going to stick and that everything is in the right place. Because with the liquid glue it's handy, but at the same time it can ooze from underneath these tiny pieces and just glue everything on there, and that's not the idea. So this is my word. I'm now going to add some liquid glue just behind the hugs, there where that second shadow is, and this way it won't show on the card. And once I have it on there, I'm going to place this on my background centered and press it down. And then this card actually is completely finished. I hope that I was sort of clear with the cross stitching, because it's not easy on camera. But I hope it sort of all makes sense. I really enjoyed making this card and I love the end result. And I so hope that you do too. If you like this card and this video was helpful, you can always give this one a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day left, and I will be back soon here with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!